He said he saw a white truck in an alley behind another house. He said he spotted a Ford Fiesta or something like it creeping down Cascade Avenue. But when you stand in Burke's room and you look through the same window that John Ramsey looked through, you'll find something more telling than a car. You'll find a wall of pine trees, a house blocking any view, and a sightline that doesn't seem to exist. So the question isn't just what John Ramsey saw, it's why he said he saw it. Because sometimes the biggest untruths are what you pretend to see. In this episode, we're looking at the sightline and the visibility of John Ramsey's 1998 statements regarding a white truck and a Ford Fiesta. Welcome back. Thanks for joining, sticking in. So John Ramsey, in an interview in 1998, started talking about what he was doing as he was moving around the house. And I don't know if he said between like 6 and 10 or something like that. And so we're trying to get a handle on what exactly John Ramsey was doing during this time. And what you'll probably find over these next couple of episodes, let's see, what you'll find over these next couple of episodes is that John Ramsey, while Patsy was wailing and bawling her eyes out, John Ramsey was quite busy. It's almost as if he never stopped moving. So I want to go through my introduction. And so today we're going to be analyzing claims made by John Ramsey during his 1998 Boulder Police Department interview, focusing on his visual observations of a white truck allegedly parked behind the Barn Hill residence and a small white car, possibly a Ford Fiesta, driving along Cascade Avenue. The analysis draws on sort of this physical site geometry, window placement, directional elevation, foliage density, and relevant statements made by John Ramsey, and some of the photographs showing from November 2017 to try to, as much as we can, replicate winter conditions that we're going to reference throughout for clarity. And so we're going to start with John Ramsey's statements in 1998, talking to Lou Smith. But before I do that, I do have to make a special shout out to a special person. I have to give a special shout out to Shannon Vozar, 4848, but just simply Shannon. Thank you so much for donating to the channel. I appreciate you for what you're doing. You didn't have to do it, but you did. Thank you for contributing, not only monetarily, but through comments and everything else. So thank you so much, Shannon. Got to give you a big hug. Appreciate you, and I hope you enjoy this next video. Shout out to Shannon. Okay, let's do it. So in 1998, John Ramsey's talking to Lou Smith, and Lou Smith says, you know, we could start a little bit higher. Starting back when the officers show up. Okay, so Lou Smith says, just trying to take it in slow steps. You know what you did with the officer and how you proceeded then. John Ramsey says, so we're standing in the hallway and we're handing him the note, trying to explain and convince him that we had a problem. And at some point, he asked us all to go into this room here and stay there. So John uses this word, we're trying to convince him. Why are you trying to convince him of anything? Right? And you know, I really don't like this. John Ramsey says, well, I'm sure I started to check some of the areas like the refrigerator and just trying to check this area. Lou Smith says, did you ever check the area of the butler's kitchen? John says, I don't remember specifically looking there. No, I might have, but I don't remember. Lou said, how much of a time period that call was made and the police officer arrived? And John said, wasn't very long, wasn't very long, 5 or 10 minutes maybe. Yeah, I remember I came and I came back. And so he's saying 5, 10 minutes. So he's saying like 5:57 to like 6:02. And that's what we were saying. Um, anyways, 5:57 to 6:02. So if the dude showed up at 5:07 and and Patsy said it took John 10 minutes to get dressed and it's 5:57, then John would have been back downstairs to greet Officer French at the door. But if it's 6:02, then John would have been down just in the nick of time. I still have problems with that, but we'll let that ride. Um, it wasn't very long, 5 or 10 minutes maybe. Yeah, I remember I came in and I came back and let him in the hallway. I said, my daughter's been kidnapped. Here's a note. And he said, are you sure she just didn't run away? And I said, for God's sakes, she's only 6 years old. And I sort of had to convince that we really had a problem. Dude, I don't know you. I don't know your daughter. I don't know how old your daughter is. I'm just now getting here, and we're already having problems. You talk about being hostile. I don't know you, bro. You didn't give me any information over the phone. So whatever Kim was able to tell me, she wasn't able to tell me much. I don't know. I'm just trying to be a good cop. Got to ask questions. And the common line is, and a lot of people get told this, hey, a lot of kids are runaways. And then you come back with what you typically come back with is the fact that no, if my daughter had run away, she would have taken her cell phone. Or if she would have gone somewhere, she would have taken her cell phone. She did not take her cell phone. And then oh, well, maybe that's a problem then. Okay, so he's already got an attitude with Officer French. And Officer French doesn't even, it's my first question. And he said, are you sure she's just not runaway? And I said, for God's sakes, she's only 6 years old. And I sort of had to convince that we really had a problem here. But he was good. He was pretty good on the uptake. And so Lou Smith says, we're just trying to take it slow here. What you did with the officer and how you proceeded then. We were standing in the hallway. We were handing him the note, trying to explain and convince him that we had a problem. And at some point, he asked us all to go into the room here and stay there. And that's the solarium, Lou Smith says. Right, John confirms. The Fernies and the Whites were arriving at some time between, I think he got there first, but at some point he kind of shepherded us all in there and asked us all to stay there. And Lou Smith says, what did you do with the note? John says, I gave it to him. I think at that point he kept it. I mean, I don't remember him giving it back to me. I do remember later we had, I think maybe they made copies, but we had it spread out on the table back there just trying to figure out what we could figure out. And then Lou Smith says, are you with the officer from when he comes in? What is your association with the officer? Is it constant? Is it sporadic? And he says it's fairly constant, as I recall. I mean, it's help and we can do and what we can do and what we have got to do. And Lou Smith says, where do you go with him, with the officer? And John Ramsey says, well, I think another fellow came fairly quickly after that. And one of them went through the house and another. And I think there were several that came. Were several that came very quickly, uniformed police. And I remember they moved their cars from in front of the house because they didn't want people to think that we had called the police. But at one point, there were some 5 or 6 uniformed police in that house or in the house. And then a couple from victims advocacy came too. So the police are responding pretty well, trying to set you up and trying to be near you and trying to get every bit of information that they can, according to what you said. I highly doubt that if they weren't taking you seriously, victims advocates wouldn't have been there. And if they were looking at you first, victims advocates wouldn't have been there, and neither would all these cops. So, Lou says, did you look in JonBenet's room with the officer? John Ramsey says, possibly. I don't remember. I'm sure I remember trying to go through to the parts of the house. Why don't you remember anything? That's starting to get on my nerves. Why don't you remember anything? Possibly ground zero? You need to be going to your daughter's room to check out and see if she's there and understand what you can find. And you're talking about possibly? Dude, y'all are starting to annoy me with this I don't know stuff. Because that does not make sense. You're starting to be annoying. Now you're starting to be annoying because that does not make sense for you to say possibly I don't remember to everything. You're saying possibly I don't remember to everything. Could she have done this? Possibly. Could she have gotten up in the middle of the night? Possibly. Could she have gone over here? Possibly. Did you ever hear this out? I don't know. Did you ever hear this? I don't remember. Dude, what do you remember? For somebody who says they're trying to get to the bottom of it, and you don't know anything, you don't ask any questions, but you sit up there on Larry King Live and try to grill Steve Thomas, what the heck do you know? You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You're sitting up here telling the cops that you don't know anything, but you think that you can grab a police update and jump on Larry King Live and sprinkle a little bit of forensics and lied, fake forensics, sprinkle a little bit of forensics on top of what you think you know, and you didn't. I didn't even see that. What are you talking about? You don't know anything. Be quiet. If you don't know anything about the investigation, be quiet. It's ignorant. Possibly, I don't remember. I'm sure I'm trying to go through different parts of the house. Lou Smith says, see, that would help us find out what floor you would have gone through. I mean, how would that have been? Lou is just, as an investigator, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it, John. Like, my God, that would help us understand. And this is the problem. You're not here to help me. That's what it is. Because when I ask you basic questions like, what floor were you on? Oh, I don't remember. I was possibly on the second floor. And Lou is saying, well, John, you said you went through the house. That would help us understand, because you're certain about that. That would help us understand where you went through, what you looked through, and maybe we can figure something out from there. But when you keep doing this hop around and hopscotch around what you did, I mean, we can't really piece anything together because we don't know for certain where you went. There's not that much I don't know in the world. John Ramsey says, well, I think the first thing that perplexes me, I don't freaking care. I don't freaking care. What perplexed you? I'm trying to figure out what you did with the cop. You see how he steers the conversation over to something he wants to talk about? I don't freaking want to talk about that. The first thing that perplexed me was, how could they have gotten in the house, or how could they have gotten in, and how could they have gotten in the house? And he was trying to look for how come they got in, and then I thought about it later. I don't remember when. I started wondering, was anybody watching the house? Because the note said they would be watching. Man, shut up. Shut up. Oh, he was looking to try to figure out how anybody could have gotten in the house. That wasn't Lou's question. Lou's question was, where did you go with the officer? What floor did you go on with the officer? I'm just trying to figure out if y'all went and checked JonBenet Ramsey's room. If y'all went and checked her room. That's all I'm asking you. And you started talking to me about what perplexed you. I did not ask you that. Y'all got a bad problem about answering questions that you're being asked. Because I'm asking you, like we talked about with Patsy, the investigators asking her, is there anything that maybe in the past JonBenet had, maybe reporters, because we have medical information here that's saying JonBenet, may have been abused in the past. And Patsy was like, oh, where's that report? What's this, then, the third, blah, blah, blah. I'm asking you, is that true or not? Who could that, if we gave you that information, who could that have been? Can you think, oh, I want to see the report? We're not talking. It's not about the report, Patsy. It's about who could have done something like this. Can you help us figure that out? You're so worried about a report. I'm asking you to help me figure out who could have done this. Why do you have a problem with that? And so John talks about what perplexes him, which is irrelevant. I started wondering because that's what they said in the note. So I went up to my bedroom and the cops are being good cops. Let me tell you that right now. I'm not saying they've been perfect, but the cops are being good cops because they're not letting John Ramsey deter them into stupidity, which is what this is. This is dumb. I need to go check the house and see if anybody, I need to check and see if the house is secure. That's the first thing we need to do. You're talking about, you're not a cop, so of course you wouldn't know. You're not a cop. You'd be scatterbrained all over the place. If I follow you, I'm not going to be doing my job. So I understand what you told me. If we're talking about a kidnapper, then that means somebody breached the house in some way, shape, or form. We need to figure out where they breached the house and then set up right there to try to understand what we can see from. Did he break in? Did he use a crowbar? What da 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 da? And then they get outside and then they're like, oh man, everything looks secure. Doesn't seem to be any forced entry. Meanwhile, you're telling us, oh, the intruder came in. They don't seem to have forced their way in. Are you sure? For God's sakes. So I went up to my bedroom and I looked out of my window. And then I went to Burke's room and looked out of the windows with some binoculars. And I was looking at cars that were driving by. There was a truck that was parked in the alley across the road that I had never noticed before. And I was watching the truck to see if possibly somebody who was what was going through my mind was when we lost Beth, I was in my office. Bro, I don't care. We're not talking. I don't care. We're not talking about that. What was going through my mind? I didn't ask you that. I got a phone call from my brother and he said Beth is dead. There was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't go to visit her. It was over. And John does this crap in his books. With JonBenet, I felt like we were going to get her back. I don't care. And I remember mustering every ounce of mental capacity I had to get her back. And so, despite the fact that I was just going mad out of my mind and my daughter wasn't there, I was trying to muster logic and reason. Okay, let's settle down. Let's get her back. So after the first shock of she's gone, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? Let's get her back. This is like an internal monologue that John has with himself that nobody asked for. And so as the morning wore on, that was what was driving me. So I was trying to figure out, blank, watching the house. What are we going to do? And all those kinds of thoughts. And is she in the closet or in the refrigerator or behind the curtain? In the Is she in the refrigerator, John? Oh, I see. We just gonna talk stupid today. That's what we gonna do. We just gonna say anything. We just gonna say anything. Was she in the refrigerator? Well, go check the refrigerator. You're standing in the kitchen. You got bagels and sandwiches in the kitchen. Check the fridge. You passed up the kitchen to come up here. You could have just stopped at the refrigerator and checked it. My God. Mustering strength and logic. Just you passed right by the refrigerator. Guys, Officer French came in here and they were talking here and he got them huddled up in here. And so they're going up the stairs to JonBenet's room and you pass the kitchen and the refrigerator is like here or it's right here. Somewhere like right here or it's like right here. It's like a freezer or something like that right here. So it's like right here or right here. Bro, as you're going up these stairs to check on JonBenet's room, just stop by the refrigerator. If you think she's in the refrigerator, then check the refrigerator. Don't waste my time with stupidity. If you think she's in the refrigerator, check the freaking refrigerator. And then we come upstairs, and then we're coming upstairs to JonBenet's room, and This is the balcony window, and you got curtains right here, and the curtain that John Ramsey was talking about right here that was undone, that he thinks is suspicious because this curtain is tied up, but this one is not. And so it's possible that somebody snuck in the window. They have a door right here. Why would they sneak in the window? Snuck in the window and undid this curtain or for whatever reason, dude. When it could have been done by one of your kids, could have been done by Burke, who sleeps over there sometimes. Not saying he did. I'm just saying it's possible. Everything doesn't have to be the intruder. And so, oh, so we need to check the curtain. Okay, then go over here and pull the curtain back. That takes 2 seconds. What are we harping on that for? That takes 2 seconds, dude. What are you talking about? What? So I was trying to figure out, watching the house, what are we going to do? Is she in the closet? Yeah, plenty of closets you can check, in the refrigerator or behind the curtain. Now I'm wondering about this one. That's what I'm wondering about. The closet. Is she in the closet? Hmm. I don't know. Is she? We're going to talk about that later. Because, anyways, just kind of scatterbrained and just took that focus. And so that's not focus. You see, you can't be scatterbrained and focused at the same time. Lou Smith says, "You say you use binoculars. Where did you get them from?" They were in my bedroom. Ah, that's funny. That's real funny. In 1998, do you recognize these binoculars? This is Patsy in 1998. Well, they might have kind of looked like they look kind of like one John had on the sailboat, which are night visions or something. They were kind of heavy duty, but I don't know for sure. I don't know why they would be in Colorado. Oh, John just said, "Oh, we got some binoculars in the room." And Patsy was like, "Oh, we got binoculars, but why would they even be in Colorado?" I don't know. He had all this stuff up in the white stuff up in he had like a storage room, cells and stuff like that. I don't know why they would be here if they are, if that's those. We had a pair of binoculars up on the dress, the high boy up in John Andrews' room, more like in a leather case, like a leather binocular case. John said they're from my room, I think probably. So y'all can't get y'all stories straight on where those binoculars came from. Skipping down a little bit, Lou Smith says, "Let's talk about the truck that you say you see," because John got sidetracked with a flashlight and stuff like that. "Let's talk about this truck that you say you see. Which window were you at when you saw it?" Ramsey said, "I think I was in Burke's room because the window is here." Uh, Lou Smith says, "Where was the truck parked?" He said, "Well, it's kind of behind the barn hills. There's an alley behind the barn hills, and then almost like a house behind the barn hills. And I watched it for a while, and there wasn't any activity. I also saw a little white car that seemed to drive by, and I think it was early morning the day after Christmas. There wasn't much going on. Specifically, I do remember the truck. I remember seeing the white Ford Fiesta or something like that. It was a small white." And Lou Smith says, "Where was that at?" And John said, "It just drove by." You got the picture of your house? You got that picture of your house? And John Ramsey says, "Yeah, it drove on Cascade, drove down the street." Any other activity? When was this that you were doing this, John? John Ramsey says, "That was probably early part in the morning as I was trying to grasp what was going on, probably before sometime between 6 and 10, because we started to wait for the call and we were ready for the call. I think he said we would call, he said he would call at 10 or after. And so we were ready for that call. He did not. If you read the note, what? Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed. And if you want to see her, or if you wanted to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank when you go home, or when you get home. You will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. Tomorrow would be the 26th, because if I am doing this on the 25th, then it would be on the 26th. The delivery will be exhausting, blah, 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 between 8 and 10 tomorrow. Dude, what are you talking about? So we're waiting for the call, and I think he said he would call at 10 or after. He said 8 and 10. If you really read the note, and Linda Arndt got there at 8:10, at 8:10 in the morning, and she set you up. So it wasn't 6 o'clock. It wasn't between 6 and 10, like you're trying to say. Oh, probably somewhere, sometime between 6 and 10. 6 and 10. You got to be kidding me. What kind of a time? What kind of a time frame is that? I asked you, like any other activity, when was this that you were doing this? You said between 6 and 10. When were you looking out of the window? You said between 6 and 10. Between 6 and 10? A 4-hour window? What the heck is that? Let me get into my notes. That just annoyed me. So the Ford Fiesta. So John is saying, I remember seeing the white Ford Fiesta or something. It was a small white car. It drove down the street. And that's what he said. He's saying in 1998. So he explains that he used binoculars while he was looking out from Burke's room to see the car. She claims traveled down Cascade. Now, so I got the street level view of Burke's window, balcony direction toward Cascade, and the shrubbery. So let me find this first picture. Burke's window, a street level view. I got a couple of them. Actually, okay, so here is Burke's window. This is on the second floor. He has 3 windows. If you look at the schematics, this is Burke's bedroom with the 3 windows and the balcony right here, just for your reference. And so this is kind of like Burke's room right here. And now this picture is November of 2017. Okay. This picture is in November of 2017, just so I can try to, replicate as much as possible the conditions. Because if you look at it in the summer, all of this is like you see the tree is, all the leaves are gone, but this is completely, all of this is shrubbery in the summer, like all of this. And so you kind of see, and I want to get another view. And this is a little bit more of a street level view. Now, this is still in November of 2017. Okay. So this is Burke's. Now you see the 3 windows. Now you see this. Okay. Now with this angle, if you're looking out to this angle, what you might be easily able to see, this is Burke's room. And if I remember correctly, this is the front door. This is the living room. This is the solarium right here, over here. Okay. So I think this is the front door. This is the living room. This is the solarium where everybody was kind of huddled into, and then you kind of start getting back here, and you start to kind of see the kitchen and the breakfast nook and everything like that. Okay, but this is represented. This is so they're between baseline and cascade. Baseline is going to be out this way, out to your left. Cascade is going to be that way out to your right. Okay, so this is a level view. Just want you to see that. And so the shrubbery between Burke's room and Cascade, um, and maybe I should kind of give you a bird's eye view. Actually, this is what I can do. Okay, if you're looking, this is the Ramsey house. Okay, this is the Ramsey house here. Now you have Baseline Road and you have Cascade Road right here. This is the Ramsey house. You got one, two, probably like three houses. There's a house right here on the corner. You got one, two, three. Three houses on the corner. You got one, two, three, four. Four houses to the right. So you got three houses to the left, four houses to the right. So they're kind of smack in the middle of the house. Right here, 764th. Thanks to Candy Rose for documenting this. 764 15th Street is going to be the Barn Hills, and behind here is an alleyway. Okay, so here goes Cascade, right? And so if we take our drop, and we put ourselves in the middle of this, and this is in August of 2024, so you can see in August of 2024 what it looks like. Yeah, we're moving toward Baseline Road. Now it's clear this is coming around the side of the Ramsey home. And you see how you can't see anything. Um, Here is the Barn Hills house right here, where you see this little fence right here and this little shrubbery. So let me skip right here, and they changed this fence. That's what it is. They changed the fence, and you see all the green, the green. You see all the trees and stuff like that that's blocking. Um, and this is Cascade Road right here. You see the stop sign. You see the stop sign right there. This is Cascade Road. Okay, but behind me, what you should be able to see, and you know you can't see nothing, but what you should be able to see is you should be able to see. Maybe I can move over here, but you're about to see my point. This is where you should be able to see Burke's uh, window from right here. But this is in the summer. But if I move to November 2017, because that's all we got, now we can see Burke's window from here. We can see Burke's window, but we still have like trees in the way, right? So if I'm John Ramsey and I see Cascade right here, okay? So I just wanted to set that up. It's marginally plausible that John could have seen small cars passing down Cascade Avenue using binoculars, especially during the wintertime. He would have needed to look through limited space, provided the slim windows in Burke's room or step onto the narrow balcony, and he couldn't have done it on the balcony. Even then, sightlines were partially obscured by the evergreen trees and the fencing. The presence of pine coverage year round in the small surface area of the windows limit the scope of visibility to such an extent that identifying the make and model of a passing car like a Ford Fiesta from that vantage point raises serious questions about the clarity of the observation and the credibility of the recollection. Because if we go back and we say John is looking that's what I'm saying. These are Burke's windows. This is window 1. This is window 2. This is window 3. Okay. I'm just trying to make it a little bit bigger as much as I can. Window 1, window 2, window 3. Right here. So John is saying he took some binoculars and he's looking over here. Now, mind you, you got a huge tree right here. I'm standing basically from my vantage point, I'm standing in the road. So this he can't look straight through here because you got trees right here. And even thinking about the elevation, these trees go up. So if I go back over here and I look at this and I go over here, let me because look, John is saying that he's looking at, this is where Burke, there's a tree right here. This is where John is saying he was looking with binoculars. He was looking at this street over here. He's looking at Cascade. Let me go to Cascade. With binoculars, John is saying that he's looking over here. Let me go back to 2017 so we can make, yeah, October. Okay, cool. October of 2017. Still about the same. We're still losing trees. Let me go stand over here. I think we got August of 2024. So this is our best shot. Shout out to Google. Let's go to November. Okay, this is what November has. This is a good look. John is saying that he could see a car with binoculars passing. I think, let me go back over here. Okay. Okay, this is close. This is the car. Okay, great. So this will be my marker. This Jeep is where the house is. Okay, I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to stand. I'm going to stand back over here. Sorry if this is kind of janky. Okay. I'm going to stand over here. And let's, yeah, we're November 2017. So this is the car that we're looking for. That Jeep. Okay. I want to come stand over here a little bit more. Because I know good and dang well you can't see nothing. Okay, this is the best angle that we're going to get. Okay. I see the Jeep. And so what John is saying is I saw a white Ford Fiesta with my binoculars. I saw a white Ford Fiesta. And so this would be his line of sight. I think we see the green sign. This would be his line of sight. And he saw a Ford Fiesta passing, maybe going this way or maybe going this way. Okay. So from this vantage point, switching back to our November 2017 view, from right here. Oh, I don't know. I'm just concerned about this tree being in the way. Okay. Boom. That's number 3 right there. So if you had binoculars, yeah, you got a pretty clear sight. Um, right here and right here, you got a pretty it's pretty clear right here. Boom, going this way, or whoever's going this way. It has to be right here that he saw coming in on Cascade, a white car coming in on Cascade. Had to be, maybe. Uh, I guess it's kind of hard because you're essentially, you're up and you're staring through trees. Like you got these two trees to contend with, and so you're staring through branches. And I don't know anybody who would do that to themselves. Stare through tree branches. I mean, honestly, that doesn't make too much sense to me. But whatever. Anyways, it's marginally possible. I agree. I'd say it's marginally possible. So that's what John said he was doing. He said he was looking out that window. It's uh all right. The white truck behind the Barnhills home. He claimed, I went up to my bedroom and I looked out the window and then Burke's room with some binoculars. There was a truck parked in the alley across the road that I had never noticed before. And so um we got behind, well, not behind, but behind 764. Yeah, let's say that. I'll say 764. 764 15th. That's the Barnhill home. And then from Burke's house. So this implies that he saw the truck behind 764 15th Street, the Barnhill home, and from Burke's room using binoculars. So I want to see the Barnhill house, the aerial view of the alley, and then sort of the slope toward that. Okay. So that's the Ramsey home. Over here is going to be the Barnhill home. And so John is saying, what he's seeing, John is saying, this is 15th Street. This is the Ramsey home. This is the Barnhill home. John is saying that he's seeing a truck back here in an alley. Is what he's saying. I saw a truck back here in an alley. Now, this is the 2017 view of the Barnhill home. Okay? He's seeing a truck back in an alley. Uh Now, if you notice, this is going down a slope. Okay, so you have a house here, but this is kind of sloped. So anything back here would also be going down a slope. I would assume. But from right here, it's hard to tell. And he's in Burke's room. He's looking and he's also going at a slope. So he's here looking through one of these windows. First of all, you can't be going through this window because there's a, guys, there's a tree right here. There's a tree right here. It's a tree. You know what I mean? Like, let me see if I can position myself in front of the trees. So, okay, I can't. I guess I can't. So, this is the front of the. This is the front. You know, look of the tree, and this is kind of a like a zoomed out view. Okay. Um. So it's a little obscure. You can't see right through this one. You can't see right through this one. Even if you're on the second floor, these trees reach up to the second floor. If I turn around and I see the barn hills, how can I see the alleyway? Because if I'm looking at the barn hills and I have binoculars, okay, I get that. But if my line of sight is right here, I can't see a truck through this alleyway. And I'm looking through here, I'm looking through their little screened in porch. Uh I can't see a truck through here. I see some trees and I see a house, but there's, a fence and everything. I got my binoculars. We're zooming in, but I can't see a truck through here. Even with my bird's eye view, that's my problem. That's my problem right there. You saw a white truck, and in the back of you use binoculars to look over this house and see a white truck in the back alley, and not only see a white truck but see somebody in, or not see anybody in the truck. A thorough physical and architectural analysis reveals that this claim lacks feasibility. Burke's room faces 15th Street directly and sits at a lower elevation than the roof line of the Barnhill home, from what it looks like. The Barnhill structure completely blocks any line of sight to the alley behind it. Moreover, additional barriers such as tree covers, fences, the tree cover fences, and other homes, 752 and 738, so forth, further complicate any potential visibility into that back alley. Even using binoculars, John would have required an elevated and angled position, such as a rooftop or a third story view, third story rear window, neither of which he mentioned. The statement that he observed the truck parked in that alley while inside Burke's room therefore defies architectural logic and observable geometry. This is my problem. I don't think you're telling the truth. You said you were upstairs looking through Burke's room, and see, if ain't, because ain't nobody gonna double check that, because it's such an obscure thing to say. Ain't nobody gonna double check that except for me, because I don't trust you anymore. I don't trust nothing you say. So if you tell me, oh, I was looking through and I was looking over and I was looking at a truck in the back alley, a back alley, you were looking over a house into a back alley, and you can't get me with this crap about binoculars, because binoculars aren't they don't see through walls. They're just binoculars. It's just magnify what you're seeing. What are you doing? See, I knew I couldn't trust you because you got some stuff going on. Visibility issues from John and Patsy's bedroom. John initially stated he also looked out of his own bedroom. He was like, oh, I went up there first. Okay, I went up to my room and looked out the window. So this is where I wanted to go into John's room. Okay, just give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? From a higher perspective. So this is Burke's room on the second floor, and if you go to the third floor, you have John and Patsy's room. Now the only windows that they have are this one, and I think there's one here. The schema doesn't show it, but there's one here, and then there's one here. Now we know that there's a big tree blocking this, because this is facing Cascade. Cascade is this way. Baseline is this way. 15th Street is this way. And I think 14th Street is this way behind the house. Okay, so if we look inside the house, right, let's go back to the other picture. This is the window that we're talking about, okay? This is the window. This is one of the windows, and we have a window right here. Okay, so this is the window. Uh uh Because you'd have to have some sort of ladder and all such as that. People could see you. And then there's a window right here. This window right here. Okay, as we already showed, looking at the Barnhill home. Uh Let me go here. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. John's window is through here because this is the third floor. It's above Burke, so his window is somewhere around here. There's a big tree right here. You can't see anything right there. Let me just be thorough. Maybe I'm tripping. Oh, man, come on. Got an October view. Yeah, man. If that was John's view, John can't see anything from his room. He can't see a darn thing. First of all, I want to know. He said he went up to his room with binoculars. Why? You can't see anything. What are you talking about? But anyways, so these views are blocked. You can't see anything out of these views. And if you look at this, now remember I told y'all several videos back. Stick with me. I'm showing you this stuff for a reason. Here it is. So, okay, this is over. This is going up to the third floor.
They view in the master bedroom, looking from west to east. You note the stairs where they enter this area.
Look at this. And I told y'all there's no window right here. Not if you look at this view and you look at the decoration, you would think there's a window right there. Nope. It ain't. Ain't no window right there. The only window you got is right here. That's facing baseline going that direction. And the one you got over here. Right here. And then you got one down here. So you can't be looking over the barn hills into that back alley from a higher view. Because even at that, you got trees right here out here. Somebody playing games. Somebody is playing games. The primary windows in John and Patsy's room face 14th Street. No, not true. Or internal sections of the home. The only window that even marginally faces Cascade is sort of like this window face near the stairwell. However, this window is not ideally positioned for extensive surveillance. It is set on a high wall above the landing, and its sight line is interrupted by thick shrubbery and vertical distance. Given these obstructions and the fact that John's statement never clearly specifies which exact window he used, it's improbable that he could see either the alley behind the barn hills or vehicles moving along Cascade with any meaningful clarity. Okay, let's move on. Contradictions and sightline impossibilities. This section highlights the key logical contradictions and physical limitations that undermine John Ramsey's claim. So, number one, the direction and the elevation. You're not high enough. In Burke's room, I don't care if you're in your room, I don't care if you're in Burke's room. You are just not high enough to see over, right? Number one. Number two, the direction that you would be looking, you have serious problems with that direction. Because it's like, if somebody would have known that you were saying that and they would have checked that, they would have known that that was a made up story. No, you can't see over. You can't see through that. Even the not directionally or elevation wise. Second thing, because Burke's window directly faces 15th Street, the alley behind the barn hills runs sort of like perpendicular to this view, and it's on the far side of their residence. the ground elevation rises toward baseline. So it's going up like this toward baseline, which is back that way. And any chance you would have had, if you're looking out of that third window, then it's sort of falling. And so from Burke's position, the line of sight would have to travel upward and over the Barnhill roof, through the foliage, and past other houses and buildings. So like Burke's window has to be positioned to not only be up over the Barnhill's house, but to be able to look over through the trees and be in the right position to get the trees out of the way, to then be able to see the rising part of the road toward baseline. Since baseline is rising, so basically if I'm going this direction, okay, let me make sure I got my bearings where I'm at. Yeah. So if this is the Ramsey home over here, you see this Jeep, and I'm here, and I'm saying, my point is that if I am Burke, or if I'm Burke's room, I'm right here, this street is rising in elevation. I would have to be able to not only look through these trees and look over this way, and be able to look over these houses. I would need a window that is perfectly positioned and high enough to get around these trees and to get over this roof as we go here, to even be able to see anything in that back alley. I don't got that. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I don't trust you. That's why I don't trust you. Without external elevation, such as standing on a ladder or a roof, the sightline would terminate at the structure itself. That you can't see past the trees. You can't see past the trees. Number two, binoculars don't bend don't bend sight lines. Binoculars can only magnify what is within visible range. They cannot penetrate obstructions or increase visual altitude. Thus, the claim that binoculars enabled John to see behind the Barnhill's house from Burke's room suggests a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation of what binoculars can do. When we look at November 2017 photos, or just looking at the map like we're doing, right? These photos were taken during the leaf off season and still show substantial visual interference from evergreen trees and architectural barriers. Even when trying to replicate optimal visibility, the line of sight was shown to be truncated by trees, tree trunks, hedges, and fence lines. If such blockages existed in 2017, it's probably reasonable, and we can infer that they were similar, if not denser, in 1996. So together, these physical realities render John's stated observation not only improbable, but technically and optically implausible. So it's possible that he saw some cars going down Cascade, but to say that he saw a car or a truck in the back alley behind the Barnhills, that's suspect. I really don't believe that at all. And so this calls into question what John said, what he said he was doing with his time. Right. So when we move to our discussion part, inference of movement, intent, and mental state, John's narrative presents an emotional mix of desperation, grief, and a possible desire to appear attentive and vigilant during a traumatic moment. He describes himself as scatterbrained and recounts checking various parts of the house with an almost obsessive urgency. He says, I was watching the house. Is she in the closet or in the refrigerator or behind the curtain? Just, kind of scatterbrained. What complicates this account is the inconsistency between his described physical movements and what the layout of the home and the sightlines allow. So when John says, I moved from my bedroom into Burke's bedroom and I start scanning the area with binoculars and I observe this truck in this location that's visually inaccessible, this introduces the possibility that John was recounting events with post-trauma memory distortion. Maybe he thought he saw it. Maybe, I had trauma, so maybe I thought. He may have conflated different moments or locations, like the Barnhills, or he may have created or embellished observations to establish concern or distract from other timelines, right? Because Lou Smith is asking, what were you doing with your time? Exactly. Okay, so there's also ambiguity whether he remained in the presence of law enforcement the entire time. If he was left alone to wander, as he implies, it's conceivable that his movements were undocumented for a period, yet this further undermines the reliability of his account, raising questions not only about the accuracy, but also about the motive and intent. So when we think about criminal investigations, these kind of discrepancies present a huge problem. Redirection, possible staging, because you're saying that I was up here, I was doing everything I could to get JonBenet back. You remember, he said, I got to get her back. With Beth, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help her. I couldn't save her. But with JonBenet, I had to get her back. I had to find her back. But when I asked you what you were doing with your time, you couldn't tell me anything reasonable. So if somebody goes back and checks your work and says, hey, you actually cannot see over the Barnhills home to any back alley. So what exactly were you doing again? Where exactly were you? Because you said between 6 and 10. You said between 6 and 10. So you were moving around between 6 and 10. It's possible we can go back and document what exactly, according to police reports and stuff like that, if it gets important enough, go back and document where you were at those times to restrict you and say, okay, you said between 6 and 10. But Linda Arndt said she had you at 8 o'clock, between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. She said she had eyes on you between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So that would mean that you did this between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And so that means that at some point in time, maybe Officer French went somewhere and you got lost in the house. So for a 2-hour period between 6 and 8 o'clock, you were lost in the house. Now I know for some of it, you stood there, you greeted friends, and you were talking to Officer French about everything and walking them through the house and stuff like that. However, at some point in time, when Officer French said, let me get you guys to go in here, let me get you guys to go in the sunroom and stay here. And when all the police were outside, showing up and kind of going outside and surrounding, and the victims advocates are coming in and stuff like that, and it's possible that you kind of moved around the house. Dad, I need to go to the restroom really quickly. Will you excuse me? I need to go to the restroom really quickly, or something. It's possible that you said that. Then you ran upstairs, or whatever you did, or that would mean that you had to excuse yourself because you had people there. So basically, people are down there waiting for you. They're here to comfort you, and you're upstairs in a room by yourself. You're all over the crime scene by yourself, unaccounted for. That becomes a real problem, because why are you all over the crime scene unaccounted for? You don't want to take anybody with you to keep you accountable, to hold you accountable and say, hey, John, I'm coming with you. I just want to make sure that you're okay. You know, if we're going to do this together. But you keep running off on people. Like you ran around the corner really quickly when you found JonBenet. You keep dashing off on people. So when the cop is still kind of said, man, let me check this out, you run up into wherever you say you are. Even if this is true, you run away from the cop and you start doing your own stuff, and nobody can account for your time around the house. So to close this down, this analysis, we're kind of concluding that John Ramsey's claim, I think this is a big part of seeing a truck parked in the alley behind the Barnhill residence from Burke's room, is logistically and architecturally implausible. It contradicts the physical design of the house, the elevation, and the basic physics of visual fields. You cannot see clearly what you say you see. You can't do it. While we can think about what you said on Cascade Avenue with the Ford Fiesta and all such as that. Okay. That's plausible. This too would have required a very precise alignment, minimal obstruction, and near ideal visual conditions. I mean, I'm assuming that means we are assuming that this tree is not in the way. That's an assumption that we have to make. We have to assume that this tree, even though I know you're looking this direction, we got to assume that you can see around this tree and this tree is not protruding a little bit more. That's the assumption we have to make. Okay? So even that is questionable. Based on this 2017 view, that's questionable. So taken together, the contradictions in John Ramsey's statement, the visual impossibilities, and his described sightings and the architectural and environmental layout strongly suggest that these claims are unreliable. Whether due to stress-induced memory distortion or intentional misdirection, the record casts significant doubt on the accuracy of his statements regarding what he saw from the upper floors of his residence. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I got a problem with John. Say what you want, but when I go back and I analyze this stuff, and I say, wait, you said you could see the back. That's what caught me, because he said he could see the back alley behind the Barnhills home. And I was like, the back alley? No, you can't. Something just about that didn't seem right. And I was like, nah, I don't think you can. Let me go check that out. So to the best of my ability, from what I can see, not even being on the ground, that's crazy. I don't know if you can see that. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks again, Shannon, for the contribution. Really appreciate you. Much love to you. Hope you're doing well. And let me know what you think. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, take it easy.